What was your best, duck, my parents were right, moment? I know it feels like you're in love, but one day you're going to look back, and this whole breakup is going to be hilarious. He said this after 15-year-old me looked at him as a tear trickled down my face. I half whispered, "You just don't know how I feel." My dad paused for a second, then began laughing so hard he cried. I'm 32 now, and the memory gets funnier every year. My dad said that time sped up as you got older. Man, it is depressing for 30-something-year-old me to report back to teenage me that he was right. It was only yesterday that teenage me was, etc., and then suddenly now. Well, 50-something-year-old me is here to tell you that the process doesn't slow down, it only worsens. Good night and good luck. Later in life you'll come to realize you won't have many friends, because they just lose contact with you. Never have they been so correct. It will be interesting to see how that works for this social media generation. Based on what I've seen, it's almost worse. It goes into folks' contact by tweeting bullshit and tagging each other, but never talking or doing anything. I was about 12. Extremely resistant to change. Mom buys me boxers. I'd always worn tighty whities. She says I should try wearing them. I defiantly refuse. I like my underwear the way it is, and I'm not gonna wear some stupid shorts. My dad says I should try them out because they're what older guys wear. Only little kids wear briefs. I still defiantly refuse. Say no one will see them under my pants anyway. That year in school, we start having to change before gym class. Guess who's the only kid in tighty whities? Guess who gets teased about it all day? Guess who goes home and openly welcomes his new boxers? If you drink orange juice you will throw up again. Mom's advice to me yesterday when I was sick. I threw up again. When you're sick, puking everything, but you need something in your stomach, eat Fruit Loops. They taste the same going up. You'll grow out of it. Yep. I grew out of it. Emo phase? Worse. Misunderstood genius phase. Not so much my parents, but my mom. When I'd do bad in school, or refuse to do homework, she would always say, "You're going to turn out like your father if you don't make a better effort." I'm 32 now, and I've had my current job for a year and 2 months. The longest run of employment I've ever had, sadly. However, I realized shortly before I got this job that she was right. I had become my father. Putting my marriage at risk because I couldn't hold a job and blaming everyone else for it, and not taking responsibility for anything. That realization inspired change. About 6 months ago, I was dealing with the urge to quit my job again, and fighting it every day. It was a huge struggle for me to make myself get up and go to work. Then my dad died. Alone in a hospice, with nothing left but a few wise-ass t-shirts. My mom loved him, she still does, but she couldn't deal with it anymore. He remarried and the same thing happened again. I don't want to die alone. I don't want to lose my wife. My mother was right, and it took almost losing my marriage and the lonely death of my father to finally get it through my thick skull. I want a bunch of pets. No, they are expensive. When you're an adult with your own home you can have all of the pets you want. I only have 3 now. They are expensive to keep. They told me those Yu-Gi-Oh! Kaiba booster packs for $60 were a waste of money, and they were right. Put away a little bit from every paycheck you make, even if it's only a $1. Save some money whenever you have the chance. When my transmission blew and I only had $300 in my savings account, I really wished I had listened. Now I've got almost $5,000 saved up. It's not a lot, but at least now I'll be ready if my car ducks up again. I remember my dad would always mention being the one paying the bills during arguments if it ever came down to it. Sure as shit, bills are the devil. You should talk to your college professors outside of class. My dad was totally right, and my grades were consistently better as a result of going to office hours. Office hours are the greatest thing ever. For one, it's a great way to show the professor that you are actually trying, and sometimes that alone will give you a slight bump when the grade is close. 2. I have found professors genuinely want to help as much as they can, and are incredibly nice in office hours, even if they are not the easiest to get along with in class. And 3. It's their class with their grading scale. If you don't understand a topic, or why you missed something, they can explain it to you better than anyone most of the time when it's one-on-one. You can't be a ghostbuster. I got really mad at that one. Turns out they were right. Ghost busting is not a real career. I really didn't doubt them when I was younger, but always wear a condom. We're not going to raise a child for you. Mother. Don't ever think you are better than anyone. Not a janitor, not a garbage man, not even a homeless person. Father. Always hire people smarter than you, or people who want your job. It will make your life easier. Everyone is replaceable. Don't be too cocky. Father. Money does not make you happy. It makes things easier, but the most miserable I've been in my entire life was when I was rich. Father. Many more. I can say that I had awesome parents. You know, this thread made me realize that my parents really didn't talk to me. Mine did, but I certainly don't recall them giving any deep advice or sage wisdom that turned out to be true. School is your ticket to choices. My dad pounded that into my head for years. During high school I was a good student, but not as good as I could have been. Could have done some college level courses in high school, which really would have helped me in college, but I didn't. When I realized that my $35,000 per year job I was working was really only $20,000, because of how often I was eating out at restaurants instead of eating at home. I spend $800 to $900 per month on food because I eat out all the time. I just bought a week's worth of groceries for $50, lol. My dad always dropped everything just to listen to me talk, ever since I was a kid. Now if he asks something of me I try to drop what I'm doing and help, no questions asked. My mom always gave me the rice from her plate because it was my favorite part of the meal, even though it was her favorite too. Now I try to give my mom a lot of little special things so she feels loved. Basically, treat well the people who treat you well. It is its own reward. I used to eat a ton of food and not put on any weight. Full packets of biscuits, cakes, big chocolate bars, you name it. Mom told me it would all catch up to me one day. Did I listen? No. As soon as I turned 19 the weight just piled on. Now I can't eat delicious cake all the time. Maybe I can. Yes I will. They told me drugs were bad. 13-year-old me thought they were full of shit. I learned. Drugs are bad, okay? When I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much he had learned in 7 years. Pretty much any child's life experience ever summed up. Your parents were right most of the time. You were just an idiotic kid who thought you knew better. Just today I, 34, taught my son, for something I remember my dad teaching me when I was a kid. 4 years, my daddy can't do anything. 8 years, my dad doesn't know everything. 12 years, my dad knows nothing. 21 years, he lived in a different time, everything's different now. 25 years, maybe I ought to find out what dad thinks. 30 years, dad, can you help me with? 50 years, I'd give anything if dad were here so I could talk this over with him. A bit of a tangent, but I was traveling home one day to my flat, when some drunk teenagers that I think were underage started talking to me. I think a lot of people would have written them off, but I thought what's the harm, and had a chat with them. Turns out they were really nice guys. We had a bit of a joke, and when I went to get off my station, they were getting off at the same place. They asked what I was doing round here, and I simply said I'm going home. It was the look on their faces that surprised me so much, and they said, you live here, with shock. Now where I live is nice, don't get me wrong, as is the area, but I wouldn't exactly call it upmarket or anything like that. I was lucky enough to listen to my parents, and with the mention of a few hiccups, I worked hard at my education and have a great job now. But my point is that I was amazed by these guys' reactions to what I thought was a fairly average thing. I almost felt sad that they thought where I lived was too high a goal for them, because in reality, of course it really isn't. I think as children we are incredibly narrow-minded. But it's so difficult at that age to understand how important your actions are then, and how much they will matter in 20 years time when you've not even been alive for 20 years. It's difficult to comprehend that your parents have done this all before. Heck, anyone that's in their 20s and beyond has gone through a lot of it. I read an interesting article once on roughly the same lines that suggested that kids in rougher areas will be subject to people getting rich from crime more. If they see a guy pull up in a Range Rover with blacked out windows, that's what they see as their ticket to escaping. In a lot of cases that's all they see, that's their only interaction with someone who's made it, and what an incredible influence that has, unfortunately. This might seem obvious to some, but it really stood out to me. My dad said I should start cursing in middle school, otherwise everyone would think I was a goody two shoes. Goddamn, was he ever ducking right? Oh Jesus, it was only last night that my mom was totally right. She saw I was taking a whole bottle of whiskey to my friend's New Year's do, and lectured me on drinking too much and the evils of neat spirits. I was late to the party, and ended up being the only slightly sober one there to call an ambulance for two of my friends, one who had alcohol poisoning, and another who had a fit. Called my mom at 3 AM to pick me and one of my ill friends from A&E, and couldn't look her in the eye. When they got rid of all of my clothes from Hot Topic while I was at school, and bought me a bunch of nice clothes from American Eagle and such, I cried, rebelled, felt personally affronted, started wearing the clothes, noticed people reacting to me positively, quickly realized that there were different ways of expressing myself than looking like a preteen Amy Lee wannabe. My wallet won't get stolen, don't worry. Yes it will. And that's how you ruin New Year's Day 2 hours after it started. 3 or 4 years ago, I went to a bank to use the ATM. I took out $300 and forgot my wallet with the cash inside, right beside the machine. Searching for it everywhere, freaking out. My wife gets a call from some dude saying he found my wallet, and we can pick it up at a bar. All my cards have been put on hold at this point. Get there, and it is full of people for a New Year's Eve bachelor/bachelorette party with multiple strippers. It was an invite only thing, so I couldn't go in. Told the bouncer about it, and he knew what to do. DJ announced I was there. Some wasted dude comes up and hands me my wallet. Everything was there, just rummaged through trying to find my info. All my cash too. I had already written it off and was willing to pay this dude. He wanted none of it. Just to pass it on and help someone else out. Damn, there are still good people out there. The amount of extra money adults have is negligible at best. Growing up you may know that, but everything is always taken care of for you, so you don't feel it until you just got your check and were excited about the only excess $20 that isn't going to bills and necessities. Hell, in high school when I was working I was wealthier than my parents easily. No bills, no gas, no insurance, nothing. That $200-300 I got every 2 weeks was pure pocket money.